Did Joe Biden win the election, Congresswoman Green?
Joe Biden is the president of the United States.
Absolutely,
Marcus.
but you pushed a big lie that said he did not win the election.
There was election fraud.
You drove those people to the Capitol on January 6th with your lie.
We're going to move on. Josh Rowe, it's your turn to ask
and my
a question
husband has
to Marjorie
proof of it.
She hadn't seen Frozen because Marjorie Taylor Greene won't let it go. And what's more concerning, neither will plenty other people in her party. The New York Times points out in a lengthy profile of the Georgia Congresswoman, writing this: every Republican candidate in her state and more across the country seem to be mimicking her, not mocking her, mimicking her. With that in mind, we welcome back David Plouffe, former Obama campaign manager and senior advisor to the former president, and Mark McKinnon, former advisor to both George W. Bush and John McCain. He is one of the co-hosts of Showtime's The Circus, which has him in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district this very week. So, Mark, I must start with you. Spill it. What are people there telling you?
They love Marjorie Taylor Greene here. Everybody you talk to just, I mean, the more she is contentious, the more she gets in fights in Congress. I mean, that is one of the really interesting facts we found out is that when she got thrown off her committees, people saw that as affirmation of why they liked her. I mean, that's what they sent her. In their view, they want her to fight. They want her to break stuff. And they want her to basically throw a big middle finger to Washington. That's exactly what they're doing. And so I think the interesting thing, yeah.
Fight for what? You just said it. She doesn't have a single committee assignment. You see her on TV all day, every day. I never talk about her on the show until now because she has absolutely no policy influence. So what is it that people are backing? She does nothing that improves their lives.
Well, Stephanie, that's about to change. I mean, if the Republicans take over Congress, which is likely, in the profile that you mentioned that Robert Draper wrote, which is terrific, it's very clear that she's talking about leadership positions in the Republican Congress. She's talking about getting an oversight position on the committee. Donald Trump is talking about putting her in his administration if he's elected. The whole point of this is that people, when she was knocked off the committees, you're right. I mean, she wasn't even taken seriously by most of her own party, but the party has moved to her now. And the party's become more like Marjorie Taylor Greene and less like Kevin McCarthy. And so the point is the next Congress is going to look a lot like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she is ascendant, and she is going to have a lot of power and influence. And she has a very clear legislative agenda.
Well, that's the next Congress if Republicans take power. David, what does that tell you about where America is? Because these lawmakers just follow what voters want.
Well, Stephanie, it should gravely concern us because I don't think we're going to be out of the woods in terms of whether we're going to remain a democracy until the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world, begin to recede in the Republican Party. And to Mark's point, I think they're growing. So, a healthy percentage of the people who are going to vote in Republican primaries, who donate, who volunteer, are going to support people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so that's what should scare us, which is until Republicans running for House, Senate, Governor, President, until more of them than not can say the person who gets the most votes should be, the winner of an election. I believe in the rule of law. Don't believe the opposition party is filled with, Satanists and pedophilia, embracers. We're going to be in trouble. So that's where the energy of the party is. Listen, if Donald Trump doesn't run, I don't think it's out of the question that Marjorie Taylor Greene will run. Do I think she'll win the primary? Probably not. But she'll be a force from the get-go. And to your point about she's very policy light. I mean, I think her agenda will be to investigate the Biden administration. It won't be to help anybody through healthcare or the economy. But I think that is what is really driving. It's if you can become a frequent contributor on Newsmax, on Fox News, it's all performance right now. And the angrier you are and the more sort of out, to right field you are, the better you're going to be. And it's super scary. Because these are super scary times. But I think that's where the power is right now. And I agree with Mark. I think remarkably, she is now kind of, the Pied Piper for many in the Republican Party.
Well, it doesn't scare me or surprise me when voters who feel left out or forgotten or feel like the government never works for them. I understand why and when they back somebody who does want to give the middle finger to the establishment. But they're not the only ones. We've got billionaires like Ronald Lauder, mega rich New Yorkers, the Palm Beach set, He is just the latest rich guy to be dumping big, big money into groups that are supporting election deniers. What are these guys investing in, Mark?
Power, pure and simple. I mean, they are investing in what these are people who are used to betting on markets and where markets move, and they see voter markets moving toward a very fringe part of the Republican Party. I mean, they're looking at what's happened with Kerry Lake in Arizona. They're looking at what happened with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And these are people who rely on their business, and they make a lot of their money off of power and influence. That's what they care about at the end of the day. That's how they make money. And so they're looking to see who's going to be in power, and they're betting on it.
But here's why that doesn't make sense. Because people who spend their careers betting on markets, you have to bet on a market where you understand and you trust the framework and the rules. If you are voting against the preservation of democracy, you could turn around and live in a world where there is no rule of law. Do these business people not realize that? None of them invest in Russia for that very reason.
Well, I'd love for you to get Ron Lauder on the show and ask him that.
Me too. All right, David, we're keeping an eye on all these numbers all week, and these early voting numbers in Georgia are really big. What does that tell you?
Well, it all depends on who they are, Stephanie. We'll learn more about that as the experts dig into it. What you want to see in early vote, I'll just say as a Democrat, you want to see a lot of people that you weren't sure were going to vote. Because if it's just people who were going to vote on election day, but they vote early, it's great. You get the vote in the bank in case something happens. You want to see first-time voters, younger voters, voters that don't have a lot of history voting in midterm elections. So it's the composition of early vote that matters. But my suspicion is, I don't know if we're going to reach 18 numbers. Those were historic, obviously, 2018, in terms of turnout. This is going to be a very strong turnout election. So, of course, if both parties are bringing all of their power to the polls, maybe neither party has a huge advantage from turnout. But if one party's able to get an advantage, that tends to make a big outsized difference in midterm elections. There's clearly a lot more energy on the left than we would have thought 6 or 8 months ago. I think one of the mistakes Democrats have made over the last 2 or 3 election cycles is underestimating Republican turnout. They are coming out. They're going to meet their numbers, is my view. So the question is can Democrats get close to that? And so it's fascinating to see who's going to be. But if you see a lot of first-time voters, a lot of younger voters, so everybody in America has a score in a campaign, right? 100 being they're going to support your candidate and 100 meaning they're going to vote. What you want to see, to get nerdy about it, is someone who's 100 on your support score, but 40 or 45 on turnout. You weren't sure they were going to turn out, and you got their vote in early. And that's what these campaigns are working so hard on right now, is to get those infrequent voters or first-time voters in the bank and early vote.
David, I appreciate you getting nerdy about it for us. Mark, on your show this week, you had a really compelling conversation with Tim Miller about how we got here. I want to share a bit of it.
There's this direct line from Palin and those monster truck rallies that she had.
Tea Party, Trump.
Kerry Lake.
So how did we get here, Mark?
Well, I mean, that discussion was, we talked about McCain and when McCain chose Palin, and of course, you know, that he had initially thought about appointing Joe Lieberman as his vice president as a dream ticket. And we talked about how different the direction of this country might have gone. But that was, I mean, it didn't start with Sarah Palin, it started with Newt Gingrich, and I mean, a lot of other factors leading to where we are today in the Republican Party. But the Palin decision was a real demarcation point and knocked a lot of other dominoes that fell. And Tim makes a good point that I think David was kind of making too, is that, you know, Palin could have been a campaign finance Palin, but she was reacting to the crowds at the time, and she kind of fed off the anger and bitter resentment that so many people had. And there's a lot of that out there today, and that's the kind of thing that's fueling a lot of the Republican candidacies and the Marjorie Taylor Greenes that we see out there. Is that she's seeing the people. I'm talking to the people in the district, and I hear it, and I see it, and I've seen it this week. They're mad, and they see Marjorie Taylor Greene as somebody who'll fight for them.
All right, then, David, Mark, thank you both for joining us. We will definitely see you again before the election.
Coming up. Bluff nerds out.
I mean, when doesn't he? Let's be clear. I love when he qualifies it. I'm about to nerd out, as though he doesn't normally. Let's be honest.
Very true.
Good to see you both.